Alright, hi YouTubers, viewers, and anyone who is watching this video or any of my videos. So today I'm Liev, I'm 8 years old, and we're gonna talk about a very old railway company. It's the Great Western Railway Company. So we're gonna talk about it now. During 1984, the Great Western Railways Company started, and it was not just the Great Western Railway Company who was there. There were lots of other old companies too, like the Dresden Locomotive Railway, the Glasgow Subway, and the London Underground.
Okay, so these are railways in the UK.
Yeah. It first started its hub in Chicago. It was going very good in Chicago, and it got their first 4 locomotives named Montague, Oliver, Sierra, and Dresden. They were very good locomotives, and they did look handsome, but with small fireboxes only. The only coal during those days were Welsh coal and regular coal. The most expensive coal was the Welsh coal, but they didn't have big enough fireboxes, so they used Welsh coal to go quite fast instead. Then during 1985, things were going very well until its Chicago hub dropped down because there was something going terribly wrong with it.
What do you mean with drop down?
It dropped down some passengers. It had only a few passengers. It started to drop down. The Chicago hub was quite losing, but it still had 2 locomotives. There were 2 brand new locomotives called Sadie and Toronto.
When you say Chicago, this is in the US?
Yeah.
So they started producing the locomotives in the US?
Yeah. Its first hub was in Chicago.
Okay.
They were going well until the money was getting up higher, and there were suddenly more passengers increasing there.
Mm-hmm.
It started its first 2 routes going to Toronto and Phoenix, and then the third Phoenix, and the third one to San Francisco, and it got a very shiny new locomotive called a very handsome, expensive locomotive named Howe. It was a very handsome one and also very expensive. But then with all of those used money, the money started to drop because they were buying too much locomotives. But luckily they still had Welsh coal. During 1986, things were going well until it had its first crash in March 6th.
Where is this? In the UK or in the US?
The US.
Mm-hmm.
There was a tender train called Dresden going through there when suddenly there was another train on the tracks. He tried to stop, but it was too late. The train crashed into the other train at the signal box coasting. There was the crossing level there. They derailed one of the trains accidentally and forgot to put up a warning flag. So the Chicago hub got dropped even more, and they were losing money. But luckily they still had $9,000 left, and then they started to buy cheaper locomotives, such as the Oyster and Wilmington. Those were the first 2 cheap locomotives. And then they started their 4th route to Edmonton in Canada. And then the 5th route going to Halifax. And then the 6th going down to Miami. And the 7th was a short train route to Detroit in Michigan. But by then, the Chicago hub only had £3,000 left. And then during its And then during the last moments, it started its eighth route, but it was then forced into bankruptcy. They then moved their hub to London in UK.
Oh, okay.
Then before the end of 1986, another crash happened. Remember that Montague?
Mm-hmm.
Remember the name called Montague? It was traveling through the train tracks, going through its branch line. It had to bring goods train to the equipment goods train to the headquarters of the Great Western. But it was going too fast.
This is in the UK already?
Yeah.
Okay.
There was another locomotive ahead of them. It was a Dresden locomotive. It was a Dresden locomotive ahead. It was just pulling out of the station. Any moment there could be a crash.
Mm-hmm.
So the signal man changed the points. It set Montague flying toward the siding, and at the end of the siding track was a barber house.
This is true?
Yeah. It's just like the similar Thomas and Friends crash.
I know.
The Montague crashed into the barber shop, and the barber was cross. But they were still gaining money actually.
Where exactly in the UK did the crash happen?
East Midlands.
Oh, we've been there, do you know?
Just above London.
Mm-hmm. We flew from Rome to the East Midlands. Did you know that? And then we had to take the train from East Midlands to Edinburgh. That was when you were 2 years old.
During 1980, and then during 1987, their first logo was made. Do you know a logo?
Mm-hmm.
It's a logo of showing what company it is. Their first logo name was the Sadi oyster, which was like those tangled golden vines, just like a Saudi flag. It was their first logo for the Great Western Railway. And during December, its first anniversary came. And then they celebrated, and soon they had enough. What was that money again?
Pounds.
Yeah, pounds. They had already now 14,000 pounds, so that they could buy enough money, buy other locomotives. There were 9 new locomotives, and 2 other new, very handsome locomotives. During 1988, they bought their first rail carriage train. It's like the rail carriage train is like a metro, but with only run diesel rail car only. Luckily, they still carry many passengers with that. And then their money then increased to 18,000 pounds. That was going very good for it. During 1989, there was another logo. You know what it was?
What was it?
The yellow, the bronze oyster.
Is this why the card that you use for paying the trains in the UK is called Oyster? Is it related to this?
It's like an oyster actually, but it still looks like an oyster because it was look like an oyster.
Yeah, but do you know when you go to London, when you ride the railway?
Remember those oyster cards?
Yeah.
You slide them through.
Yeah, so maybe it came from here, right?
I'm thinking so.
Yeah, okay.
So, during 1990, the service increased and more passengers were coming. And soon it had a very big competition with the companies London Underground, the Norwegian Railway, the Movadesk Railway, and even the Berlin Railway.
All of these are railways in the UK, or
Yeah, they were starting to get competitive and
competitive?
competitive and rivaling because the companies were trying to take over. But luckily, in 1991, the first merger with the company came. Glasgow Subway merged with the Great Western Railway, and it started its and then it started its fir- and it started its first railway route going
Mm.
outside Britain into France. And then, do you know where that route was going to?
Where?
Paris.
They still have that, I think. It's not the Great Western, but there's still a train coming from England to France.
Yeah. Then before the end of 1991, became the next logo. There was the yellow oyster. The yellow oyster. When you look at the yellow oyster, you may look at it and think of salted fish because when you look at it, it's quite brown and yellow, just like a fish bag. So in 1992, they celebrated their second anniversary, and they brought lots of food to the passengers this time. During that time, do you remember Pan American Airlines? I told you it in some people. It was bankrupt during 1991, I think.
Really?
Yeah, it flew its last flight. So during the end of 1992, they celebrated to the other companies they made friends with. They made friends with other companies like the Dresden Locomotive at the Glasgow Subway.
Okay.
And then they celebrated the anniversary with them, of course. And during 1993, they got their first Metro rail line car. It was a 5-rail car, just like in New York. You can see those rail cars, which look like rectangle cuboid.
Yeah.
It's like rectangle. And that was the start of the first ever getting in money. The money was increasing just because the passengers liked those carriages, and it increased suddenly to £31,000.
So this is no longer the Great Western Railway.
No, it's still the Great Western Railway.
Right, okay.
Then in 1994, they made friends with what was that? The Mossadegh company, but it was still rivaling with the other companies in Britain. But luckily, they were still friends with Glasgow, of course. They were increasing money, getting more passengers, and they celebrated their first anniversary with all the companies in Europe, except for its rivals, except for its company's rivals. So it was getting more good. During 1995, things were still going good when the second crash happened. It had the first subway during 1995, but the first subway accident occurred there, the Great Western Railway subway. It was steaming through the tunnel when suddenly the points changed and crashed, and it skipped. The points were not changed in the normal direction, but it was still going straight during the points. After they passed the points, but suddenly something strange happened. There was some screeching in the tunnel and it ground to a halt. The passengers had to get outside and walk to the next station, of course. So the money dropped down to £25,000, but they were still going good. And they bought 6 new locomotives and rail cars. And during And during 1997, it celebrated its third anniversary with its rivals to still make friends because they were still going good, actually. And during that time, Glasgow Subway celebrated its second anniversary for itself. And then during 1998, its money increased to £36,000.
Is this for real, the money?
Yeah, just like a millionaire, right? During 2000, it celebrated its first whole anniversary from Europe to Asia, and it started its second route.
Oh, you mean they started to have a route to Asia?
And then it started its first route going outside Europe and into Asia. It was going to Novosibirsk in Russia, in Middle Russia, and the second one going to Mongolia. And there was also a really handsome route going to Rome and Berlin, and more passengers were coming there. But during 2001, they celebrated for the families of the victims of the September 11 attacks. And it was a special occasion even when the attacks came. And during 2003, its locomotives finally got big fireboxes so that they wouldn't have to use very expensive coal. And the people came up. They had already carried 8,330 passengers. And they were still gaining money up to £38,000. And during 2005, its fourth accident happened.
Oh no!
It was bringing some electric cars. It was bringing its first high-speed cars, but the high-speed cars got a fault, so they had to break up, and so another high-speed train took it, and they got their first high-speed train, and they became friends with now the London Underground. And during 2008 and 2009, they celebrated their fourth anniversary. Actually, the fifth anniversary.
That cannot be the fourth anniversary. It's 2009 already, so it's been many years already. So, why is it just the fourth?
2008, that was the fifth anniversary. It was.
Okay.
So during 2009, a new railway merged with it. It was Northwestern Railways. It was from Glasgow, actually.
Mm-hmm.
It was a newly made company, and they merged with it, and the company's name became the Great Western North Railway. It became, and the logo was changed to the big W. It was actually still black, actually. And then by 2011, they changed their logo again to the golden green logo. By this time, everyone was still feeling pleased with themselves, but their name changed back to the Great Western Railways, not the Great Western North Railways anymore. But it still had its merger with that company. And during 2012 to 2014, it became a millionaire of £53,000. And I just want to thank my mother for viewing this video.
Wait, what happened to the Great Western Railway? Is it still running?
It is still running from London to other places.
Okay.
Right now during 2020. And before this video ends.
Wait. What about duck? Duck is what?
He's a Great Western engine.
Oh, he's a Great Western
But
engine.
his real name was Montague.
Oh, so Duck is patterned after Montague, a real train.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Even.
Do you know that you've seen some of the older trains when we brought you to York in 2017? Do you remember that?
No.
We went to the Railway Museum, and you actually have pictures with the old trains there.
Oh.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Say your closing statements now.
Just before we end this video, I'll tell you how many passengers they've carried during 2020.
Okay. 2020, right? Like this year.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's already 12,000 to 13,000 people. Of course.
Should be more than that.
Well, it's still good. Well, right now, folks, we're gonna close this video down, but I just want to say, if you like this video, hit the like button or tap the subscribe button and hit the notification bell for more videos. And I'm gonna get a patron soon. Bye!
What's a patron?
A patron! A one who helps me with these videos.
Alright. Am I not your patron?
A patron YouTube channel.
Okay. Say bye.
Bye!